Welcome to the Tell Us Ellis podcast.
Okay, everybody, we are back with our second installment of MLB team previews for the 2026 season. And today I'm excited to talk to you about two teams that are very interesting to me. One is, I'll just call them the Athletics because I don't think they can be called Las Vegas yet. I don't want to call them Sacramento, and they're not Oakland anymore. So we'll just call them the Athletics. And the other team is the American League champion Toronto BlueJays. Two very interesting teams, and excited to get into them today. So one thing I do want to do is explain this pyramid concept again, and I'll show you kind of a diagram here of what this looks like. Basically, there are different tiers that I'm going to put teams into. The top tier, tier number one, are the two best teams in baseball, in my opinion. And I will have two teams there, two teams that I feel are absolutely possibilities for a World Series appearance. They're my top two teams in baseball. Beyond that, you have level two, which are four other teams, and those absolutely could be World Series teams, but I have them just a step below those top four. And then we go to the next tier, tier three, and those are still playoff teams because if you look at it, there's 12 teams in the playoffs, and if you take those first three levels, that's 12 teams. So those first three levels are basically the teams that I think are most likely to be in the playoffs in 2026. Doesn't mean some of them could slip down or a fourth tier team could slip up, but this is just how I see it as of now. And then we go down the list until you reach the bottom tier, which are, to me, the 10 worst teams in baseball. Again, I'll talk about it briefly as I go over these teams in my previews, but I'm not going to reveal my final pyramid until my final MLB preview show, very close to opening day. I have it mapped out where I think it'll be, but more to come on that. Timing is very important. When I'm going through 30 teams two at a time, I've got to prepare these shows and be ready to lead up to opening day. So just a reminder, if you like this podcast, make sure on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever podcast platform you listen to, make sure you click subscribe. So those shows can come right up in your queue. When you're driving, it'll pop up as a new episode and you can listen to it. So make sure you subscribe. Also, if you like the show, make sure you give it a thumbs up on whatever platform you're listening to. I used to hate it when I would watch a podcast or a YouTube show and people would say that. And I was like, what are you talking about? Now I'm the one saying it. It's like I'm selling my soul to the devil or something like that. But it is important. The more viewers I get, the more ability I have to get my content out to more people, and it just makes everything work really well. Also, follow me on social media, X and Instagram at TellUsEllisHQ. And then if you have any questions, want to join the show or challenge me on something, whatever it is, ask a question, just email me, jamie@tellusellis.com. So with that, let's start with the Athletics. All right, the Athletics. This is a team that many people look at and they say it's the biggest issue with baseball. You've got these teams that spend very little and then the teams that spend a lot, and the Athletics are one of those teams that spend very little. And they've had this stadium situation in Oakland for years and years and years. And now they're playing in a minor league ballpark in Sacramento. And it's like, why should I even follow baseball? None of this makes sense. I will say it is being corrected now. What was the Oakland Athletics, currently playing in Sacramento, will be in a new home for the 2028 season. Stadium is being built in Las Vegas. It's going to be a beautiful stadium, and it's something to be really excited about, especially as this team starts building towards being something. So, and I'll get into that in a minute. John Fisher is the owner. He's the son of the founders of Gap, the store Gap, and he invests in other franchises. He invests in the San Jose Earthquakes and Celtic FC. A lot of people don't like him because of this stadium situation, because he has kept payroll down. But then again, some people do like him because he's finally getting out of this situation and has decided to move the team to Las Vegas, and those in Las Vegas are going to embrace him. So I would just say let's hold off on judging him. It was a very terrible situation in Oakland. The stadium was awful. They couldn't draw. It was just an unforgiving situation. They're finally going to have a chance to do something different here. So once they move to Vegas, let's really see how John Fisher handles the team. The Vegas stadium situation, by the way, didn't do him any favors at first either. A lot of contention there, but everything is in order now, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt. This is an Oakland Athletics team. Look, there, I said it, and I'm going to keep that in there. I'm going to screw it up. It's not Oakland Athletics. This is an athletics team that actually played pretty well last year. 76 and 86, 10 games below 500. They ended up 14 games back. They were 22 and 20 and only a game and a half back on May 13th. Now that was still pretty early in the season, but then they lost 11 in a row. And on July 23rd, they were 42 and 62. They were 20 games below 500. But after July 23rd, they actually went 34 and 24 the rest of the season. And there's something here. And I look forward to digging into it here. Their last playoff appearance was 2020. That was the COVID year, shortened year. 2021, they were 86 and 76. 2022, they won 60 games. 2023, they only won 50 games. 2024, they made a 19-game improvement. They won 69 games. And then last year, they made a 7-game improvement, again, winning 76 games. What's interesting to me is their attendance during this time period. Listen to these attendance figures. And remember, 2 million to me is a benchmark. Teams should be hitting 2 million fans a year, period. You want to get closer to 2.5 million, but 2 million, absolutely. So listen to these numbers. 2021, 701,000 fans. This was in Oakland. 2022 in Oakland. And by the way, 2021 was an 86-win team. 2022, 787,000 fans. 2023, 832,000 fans. 2024, 922,000 fans. Now, some of that early numbers were probably COVID a little bit, people coming back, but still 2024, 922,000 fans. Last year in Sacramento, they drew 768,000 fans. They outdrew the 2021 number and almost outdrew the 2022 number. So to say there was a problem in Oakland is an understatement. Now, I want to talk about their manager, Mark Kotsay. I remember when Mark Kotsay was a player. He was a coach in the A's system before becoming a manager. His record as an A's manager is 255 wins, 393 losses. Sounds bad. But again, he has improved the last 3 years from 50 wins to 69 wins to 76 wins, and he just did not have a lot to work with. He's seen as a steady presence at a tumultuous time. I mean, when you think about it, everything that the Athletics have gone through, it's been a terrible time for them. And the move from Oakland to West Sacramento and now, soon to Las Vegas, they extended him through 2028, which is good, and they have an option for 2029. It'll be interesting. I saw this with Brandon Hyde in Baltimore. Sometimes the guy to get you there isn't the guy to sustain you into the future. So Brandon Hyde got the Orioles to their 100-plus win season, gets them into the playoffs. They make the playoffs 2 years in a row. Last year they had a bad year and he gets fired. And now is the next guy going to take the Orioles to the next level? Kind of the same thing here with Kotsay that you have to keep an eye on. If the A's continue to improve, is he going to be the guy that stays with them and leads them towards an American League pennant? We'll see about that. But overall, really highly regarded. Their general manager is David Forst. He actually succeeded Billy Beane when Beane was promoted. His contract runs through the 2026 season, and most feel he has done a really good job navigating an impossible situation. An owner that hasn't been willing to spend money, and following in the heels of Billy Beane, who's now an advisor to John Fisher, the owner. Billy Beane no longer has day-to-day roster input or management. He just acts as a guide. But you think about it, David Forst has just had his hands tied. Hard to tell how good of a general manager he truly is. Let me talk about the stadium where they're playing in West Sacramento right now. It's Sutter Health Park, and it's, again, a minor league stadium. We only have 1 year there to know what really is happening. But what it appears is that there is a huge run difference, positive run difference compared to average playing at Sutter Park. The initial statistics for last year show that teams are scoring 1.26 more runs, or a 1.26 factor of runs per game than normal. So, in other words, if a team scores 1 run in a normal ballpark, they would be scoring 1.26 runs in Sacramento. A team that scores 4 runs in a normal ballpark would almost be scoring 5 runs, a little over 5 runs in Sutter Park. So, plays to offense, there's high temperatures there, high home run rates. It's a fast and dry outfield, so the ball runs, and that kind of explains some of that differential. So I've already talked about this, but as I do every team preview, I want to go over some of the changes since last year. When you look at the players that the Athletics lost in the offseason, a couple of them are still free agents, but I don't count them as considerable losses if they don't re-sign. Jose Leclerc is a relief pitcher, 0-1 with a 6 ERA last year, and really only pitched 9 innings. And then the other one was Scott McGaw. He is still a free agent. He only pitched 16 innings last year to a 6.75 ERA. They also lost J.J. Bleday, an outfielder, to the Reds. Bleday is one of those guys, I've said this before, he never really impressed me in the majors. He was, um, a good college hitter, but just never was able to translate it into Major League Baseball. He batted 212, 14 home runs, 39 RBIs last year, an OPS below 700. The guy that they lost that might be a little problematic is Sean Newcomb. He went to the White Sox, and he was a really good swingman. He started 5 games for the Athletics, relieved another 43 games. He was 2-5 with a 2.73 ERA, 92 and a third innings. He struck out 91 batters and pitched to a 135 whip, a little elevated, but I think he's a guy that they will miss. Now, some players they added, I'll start with the pitching. They added Aaron Savali, who's become a little bit well-traveled, but he's a starting pitcher, 4-9 with a 4.85 ERA last year, 102 innings. He struck out 88 batters, a 1.5 whip, but he's an arm. He's giving them 102 more innings, kind of fills that Sean Newcomb role maybe a little bit. They also added a couple bullpen arms. One is Scott Barlow, a relief pitcher, 6-3 last year with a 4.21 ERA, pitched in 75 games, 68 and a third innings. So that's good. They need some bullpen innings. That should be helpful. A guy I'm going to keep an eye on, though, is Mark Leiter. He signed with them, pitched for the Yankees for a while, and never was able to kind of do the job with New York. Last year, he was 6-7 with a 4.84 ERA in 59 games. I think he's a good pitcher, and I think he, with a little less New York vibe happening, not a little less, going from New York to Sacramento, a lot less. I think he could actually have a pretty big year out of the pen. So again, 6-7, 4.84 ERA, 48 in the third innings last year. He did strike out 54 batters. So not a lot of activity in the offseason for the Athletics, but I don't know if they really needed a lot of activity, to be honest with you. I think this is a team that's building, and we've got to see how some of these young players produce. So let's talk about how they fared last year. We talked about how Sacramento plays, as far as their stadium goes, and it may have contributed to the Athletics being 5th in the league in average and 8th in OPS. No doubt about it. But they also have some pretty good hitters on their team. Their issues have been starting pitching. They were 27th in ERA and 25th in WHIP last year. And then bullpen. They were 24th in ERA and 24th in WHIP. Again, how much of that relates to this stadium factor? We don't know. So I want to go through their lineup and just look at some of their players. And I'll tell you, I did some double takes when I started looking through this because I was really impressed with what they have, especially on the hitting side. So look, it starts with Nick Kurtz. Nick Kurtz, rookie of the year, batted 290, 36 home runs in his rookie year. Unbelievable. Unbelievable hitter. He plays first base. He is a mainstay. 2024 draft, he was the 4th overall pick. Nick Kurtz is going to be one of these leaders that takes them into the Las Vegas era. Shea Langeliers is their catcher, and he lit it up last year. Absolutely lit it up. 277, 31 home runs, a 536 slugging percentage. Wow. I mean, this guy, back in 2019, he was the 9th overall pick, but he was never this good. And a lot of power coming out of him, really good numbers. So I think they're pretty stacked between Kurtz and Langeliers. Now you have Tyler Soderstrom, who I've had from a fantasy standpoint on and off over the last couple of years. He's playing left field. Soderstrom's still only 24 years old. He was a first round draft pick, 26th overall back in 2020. Batted 276 last year, 25 home runs, gets on base at a 346 clip, 474 slugging percentage. Soderstrom, a very nice player, a left-handed bat in that lineup. So um, first 3 players that I've covered, I feel really good about. Okay. Now we go to Brent Rooker, who is likely to be their DH this year. Rooker is a right-handed bat, another first-round draft pick, 35th overall. Must have been a compensatory pick or something like that. He actually was drafted by Minnesota and then ended up on waivers with Kansas City, but Oakland picked him up. This was back in 2022. And the guy batted 262 last year with 30 home runs, 335 on base percentage, 479 slugging percentage. Holy cow, those are really, really good numbers. Zach Geloff is injured right now. Geloff, I love this guy. He is a fantasy guy that I've had for a while. He had shoulder surgery back in September. 26 years old. He was a 2nd-round pick, 60th overall by Oakland. He should be coming back shortly after the start of the season. So I look forward to seeing what a healthy Zach Geloff can do in this lineup. He was probably going to play second base. For right now, though, free agent pickup Jeff McNeil will probably fill in at second base. Look, McNeil only batted 243 last year. He was mostly known for his hitting, didn't hit a lot of home runs, had 12 last year, doesn't steal a lot of bases, but is a good steady player and a good fill-in at second base until Geloff comes back, and then he can play infield and outfield. He's pretty versatile, so you kind of like that. Jacob Wilson, shortstop. Wilson was another first-round pick, 2023 for the Athletics, 6th overall. What did he do his rookie season? Well, in 523 plate appearances, he batted 311 with 13 home runs, 5 stolen bases, gets on base at a 355 clip, 444 slugging percentage. Wilson is going to be 24 years old by opening day. Again, I keep saying it, a lot to like. Lawrence Butler, he was a guy from a fantasy standpoint that a lot of people liked. He's an outfielder, plays right field, stolen base threat, but he also has some pop in his bat. He's a left-handed hitter. Butler only batted 234 last year, only gets on base at a 306 clip, but he did hit 21 home runs and stole 22 bases. If he can work on getting that average up and still be as a 2020 guy, I mean, my goodness, that is unbelievable. That bodes really well for this team. So another player that's exciting to watch. Max Muncy, not the Muncy you're probably thinking of, but Max Muncy, the 23-year-old who was again a first round 25th overall pick of the Athletics back in 2021. He's probably going to play third base this year. He did have 220 at bats or plate appearances for Oakland. There I go again. For the Athletics last year, only batted 214, 9 home runs and 220 plate appearances. Not bad. He's got some pop in his bat. He is probably going to get an opportunity to play every day, and we'll see what he can do. And then right now in center field, Denzel Clark, the youngster, he'll be 25, 26 come opening day. Not a top pick, but he was a 4th-round pick back in 2021 of Oakland. In 159 plate appearances, he batted 230 last year, 3 home runs. He is probably going to get the center field job. So, let's see what he can do. boy, pretty much top to bottom, I really, really like this lineup. Very solid lineup. When you look at the bench for this team, you've got a guy like Andy Ibanez, who is a veteran. He's 33 years old, hasn't had a ton of playing time, but he's a backup infielder. I would expect that he will have a chance to make the team. He's on the 40-man roster right now. Austin Wynns is likely to be the backup catcher. He's a serviceable backup. When you have Langoliers at catcher, I think I've pronounced it differently now 4 or 5 times. Wynns is going to spell relief on a limited basis, I would expect. Carlos Cortez is an outfielder. He was a 3rd-round pick of the Mets back in, I believe it was 2018. He good outfielder, good defensive outfielder, can hit a little bit. And then Colby Thomas was a 3rd-round pick of the Athletics back in 2022. I think he has a chance to make this team as a backup outfielder as well. So that is their hitting. And again, I really like it. Their lineup, so far of the teams that I've reviewed, this is the best lineup. And I know I've only reviewed this as the 3rd team, but I really like this lineup. Let's talk about their starting pitching. Again, not as good last year, and they're playing in a ballpark that is run heavy, hitter friendly. Luis Severino, 4.54 ERA last year, 29 games started, 162 and 2/3 innings pitched, 124 strikeouts, gives up about a hit an inning. Look, Severino is now 32 years old, playing in a hitter's park. I think that's likely what you're going to get from Severino, just being honest. So he will likely come out there, and I would expect him to be the opening day pitcher for the Athletics. You also have Jeffrey Springs. He came over in a trade with Tampa Bay back in 2024. He pitched to a 4.11 ERA last year. He 171 innings, only gave up 153 hits. Not a big strikeout pitcher. He struck out 138 batters, but that is a decent number 2. I will take that as a number 2 starter, Jeffrey Springs. He's now 33 years old, but I like Springs. I think he's a good number 2 starter. I talked about Aaron Savali. He is probably going to come in the middle of this rotation. He's now 30 years old, pitched to a 4.85 ERA last year. Don't love Savali as a 3rd, slating in that 3rd starting pitcher position. I'd rather see him at a 4 or 5, probably a 5, but that's just where we are with them. So Savali is going to probably come out day 3 or game 3 for the Athletics. You've got Jacob Lopez. He also came over from Tampa Bay last year, a 4.08 ERA and 17 games started, 92 and 2/3 innings, just 81 hits, and he strikes out a decent amount of hitters, 113 strikeouts in those 92 and 2/3 innings. So, not a bad number 4 starter. And then Luis Morales was an international signing out of Cuba in 2023. He is just 23 years old, and he only started 9 games last year, but pitched to a 3.14 ERA, 48 and 2/3 innings, only 38 hits and 43 strikeouts. Still young, again, at 23. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Luis Morales this year. So not a terrible rotation, but a little bit of a mixed batch there. And again, in a very hitter-friendly park. When I look at their bullpen, right now, if I had to guess, they're probably looking at a closer by committee, at least as we are here in spring training. Hogan Harris, Justin Sterner, and Mark Leiter, probably the 3 closer candidates. Hogan Harris pitched to a 3.20 ERA last year. 64 and 2/3 innings. He gave up 54 hits and struck out 65 batters. Not bad. Harris was a 3rd-round pick of the A's back in 2018. He's 29 years old, so he'll have a chance to close. Justin Sterner, he is also picked up by the Athletics from Tampa Bay. He was a waiver claim, pitched to a 3.18 ERA last year, 65 innings, 47 hits, and 70 strikeouts. Really good year for Sterner last year. And then Mark Leiter, I talked about it, 4.84 ERA with the Yankees, but I think he's a really good pitcher, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had a bounce back year. Now, if one of those guys can claim the closer position, it does move down everybody else into setup roles, which helps the rest of the bullpen, because right now From mid-relief standpoint, you've got Michael Kelly. Kelly pitched to a 3.18 ERA last year, 39 and two-thirds innings, just 32 hits and 29 strikeouts. Not bad. You're adding in Scott Barlow this year, pitched to a 4.21 ERA last year with Cincinnati, 68 and a third innings, just 50 hits and 75 strikeouts. So that's a good pickup for them. Elvis Alvarado is in their bullpen. He pitched to a 3.19 ERA last year, 42 and a third innings, just 34 hits and 50 strikeouts. He was a waiver claim from Pittsburgh in the offseason. So let's see what he can do. He still has two options remaining as well. Finally, filling that out, you've got Brady Basso. He was a 2019 draft pick of Oakland last year, 2.31 ERA and only 11 and two-thirds innings. And then Luis Medina, he could be a long relief candidate for the Athletics. So overall, even though they didn't rank very well last year, I feel okay with this team if it was if it wasn't in such a hitter-friendly park. So we talked about Geloff as well, and just him being injured. Hopefully he comes back sooner than later, and that would be very, very helpful to this team. So let's look at some of the Athletics' top prospects. Again, I'm going to focus on those that are in the top 100, and then also if there's anybody that could help this team this year, I'll focus on that. But I think most of these guys are in the top 100, and it starts with Leo DeVries. And let me tell you something. This guy, he's only 19 years old, but he has the potential to be an absolute complete hitter in the big leagues. He's ranked 12th overall in baseball from a prospect standpoint. He plays shortstop. He's 6'2", 183 pounds. So at 19 years old, he is already starting to fill out. You know, if you look at his grading, Baseball America has his hitting at a 60, power at a 55, and his arm is a 60. Again, he's got a chance to stick at shortstop. I think he's going to move quickly through the system, even though he's 19 years old. He'll probably begin this year in Double-A ball, but I don't think the A's are going to be afraid to push a guy like this sooner than later. This is another one that as they open their ballpark in Las Vegas in 2028, that could be ready to go and fly. He was signed out of the Dominican Republic for $4.2 million, and he came over from the Padres in the Mason Miller trade. This guy, he grew up idolizing Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis, and I don't think it's short of saying that he could be every bit of one of those players. So exciting guy. I would love to say he'll be in the big leagues this year. I doubt it. Somebody who could be in the big leagues this year is their second prospect overall, Jamie Arnold. Now, Arnold is 21 years old, so I don't think he'll make the big league team this year, although he could if Oakland, there I go again, if the Athletics are in contention. He's 21 years old, 6'1", 165 pounds. He pitched for Florida State in the College World Series as a sophomore, and he was in 2025 the top ranked pitching prospect in baseball. So what you like about him is he's got a 93 mile an hour fastball that can play up into the mid 90s, maybe even touching 96, 97. He also has a very good slider, a very good changeup. So he's got a lot of pitches in his arsenal. And, they drafted him overall at number 11. They were surprised that he fell that far, but they were happy to pick him up. He projects as maybe a mid-rotation starter, maybe a little upside there, just depending on how he, builds himself up and so forth. But he is a guy, like I said, I doubt he hits the Athletics this year, but he could. Now, and by the way, he ranks 39th overall in baseball. So he's the number 2 prospect for the Athletics, but 39th overall in baseball. So a lot to like there. Now, their third best prospect is a guy that I absolutely could see, and I think we will see him in Sacramento this year with the Athletics, is Gage Jump. He is a left-hand pitcher. He's 22 years old. He stands 6 foot tall, 185 pounds, only 6 foot tall, but he can get a lot of heat on his fastball. He can hit 97, 98 miles an hour, has a lot of deception in his delivery. He throws, from a fastball grading standpoint, he grades out at a 60, could do some work on his changeup, but he does throw a curveball that has good velocity changes that really works in his favor. So again, he's another guy that could be a mid-rotation starter, but he probably would have been called up last year if the Athletics were in contention, but they weren't, so he didn't. There's a shot he could break camp with them. I think they'll probably put him back in AA, AAA to start the season, but he's a guy, along with Jamie Arnold, that are two pitchers that, again, we should be very excited about this Athletics team. We talked about their hitting. Their pitching, not as strong, but you've got some arms that are ready to go. So I think that's really exciting. Overall, where the Athletics farm system ranks is number 9 overall. They've graduated some guys, which kind of hurts them, but still they're number 9 overall. If you look back over the last couple of years, 2021, they were the 29th ranked franchise from a prospect standpoint. 2022, they went to 27th. 2023, they were 27th. 2024, they were 25th. 2025, they were 11th, and now they rank 9th in baseball. I only covered 3 guys, but that's because some of these guys are pretty young. But they have a litany of guys that could be contributors to this team either now or again when they go to Las Vegas in 2028. They also had a really good international signing class this year. They signed the 5th best prospect in the international class, Johensi Colome. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Johensi Colome. That's what I'll say. They signed him for $4 million out of the Dominican Republic. He's only 17 years old. Again, the 5th best international signing, and that's a big deal. 6'2", 190 pounds. He's a shortstop. So another developmental guy for the Athletics. And then they signed the number 33 prospect, another shortstop, Ricky Duran, much easier to say. He was signed out of Venezuela, another 17-year-old, 175 pounds, and again, a shortstop. So, really exciting for the Athletics. I think they've got some good players on their current roster, and then, some players that will be coming up in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years. So it's exciting. What if things don't work out for the Athletics this year? Or what if they do? What if they improve, but they are still on the outside looking in? Do they have players that they could move? And I would say, yes, they do. Some of them, it's going to require good seasons. So I'll put on my list number 1, Luis Severino. He's got 1 year and $25 million on this year's contract, plus a player option for 27 of $22 million. If he has a good year, but Oakland is not in contention, I can see a team being very interested in picking up Luis Severino. So I think he is a guy that could be traded near the trade deadline. Jeff McNeil is another guy. Let's say Geloff comes back and he's playing well and so forth. Could you move a guy like Jeff McNeil? Might not bring as much interest, but his versatility could lead to something. He's got this 1-year contract, $15.75 million. He does have a club option for the same amount in 2027, but could be a tradable asset. Jeffrey Springs is another guy. I read his stats from last year. He had pretty good statistics. He's got this year he's being paid $10.5 million and has a club option of $15 million for 27. He could be a movable asset if the Athletics fall out of contention, but he has a good year. A couple other guys, Aaron Savali's on a 1-year deal, so he could be movable. Mark Leiter, as much as I like him, could be movable as he's only on a 1-year deal. And then Scott Barlow's another one. So there are some assets here that could bring back a return for Oakland. I think especially a Severino, maybe a Springs. But if things don't work out, the Athletics have some options there. Overall, where does this team stand? Boy, I go back and forth on this. I would have originally said they are in the bottom 10 for me. And then I started looking into it. And I think they're somewhere in that next 8 range. They could fall into the bottom 10, but I think somewhere between that second to last pyramid level and the bottom pyramid level is where I see them falling out. So that is the Athletics for 2026. All right. A very interesting team to me, and the team that I love to hate. Always have disliked the Blue Jays, and part of it is because they're in the American League East. Part of it is Cito Gaston not putting Mike Messina in the All-Star game that was played in Baltimore. Um, Horrible. And part of it is the '89 season when the Orioles and Blue Jays, it came down to the final weekend, and the Blue Jays beat the Orioles 2 out of 3 to win the division. You can tell I have some animosity here, but I'm going to try not to be biased. Congratulations for winning the American League pennant last year, Toronto. That was last year, not this year. In all honesty, let's take a look at the Blue Jays. They've had a really successful run here. Going back to 2021, they finished 91 and 71. It was a fourth place finish, believe it or not. In 2021, they finished 9 games back. Um, if you recall that year, teams played to crowds, but it was a reduced crowd in 2021. To make it worse, Canada had even more restrictions. So the Blue Jays had to play at TD Ballpark in Dunedin. They played at Salin Field in Buffalo. And then they did, starting in July, have some games at the Rogers Center in Toronto. But they kind of were passed around quite a bit. Regardless, they won 91 games, and that was really, commendable. 2022, they win 92 games. They go 92 and 70. They finish in second place, 7 games back. They lost the American League wild card 2 games to none to the Mariners that year. Then they come out in 2023 and they win 89 games, 89 and 73. They finish in third place. They do make the playoffs, and they lost the American League wild card 2 games to none to the Twins. 2024, they took a step back. It was a weird year. They only won 74 games, 74 and 88, didn't make the playoffs. And then last year, 2025, they finished 94 and 68. They win the division by tiebreaker, first place. And they won the American League Division Series over the Yankees 3 games to 1. They won the ALCS over the Mariners 4 games to 3, and then they lose to the Dodgers in heartbreaking fashion 4 games to 3 in the World Series. Uh, I always like to look at fans, and Toronto is widely known for having some of the best fans in sports, whether it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, whether it's the Toronto Raptors. They always draw well. So 2021, again, they had a mixture of home games, different places. They only drew 805,000 fans. Remember, my benchmark is 2 million, and you really want to be at 2.5 million. So we got to write off 2021 because of the weird season it was for Toronto. 2022, 2.6 million fans, and that was a playoff team, so really good. 2023, they drew 3 million fans. That was a playoff team. 2024, they drew 2.7 million fans. And then last year, 2.8 million fans. This is a really well-liked franchise in Toronto. So really nice job. Manager is John Schneider. He's been there since the middle of 2022. The team exercised his option for 2026. After 26, he technically does not have a contract, so that'll be interesting. He's known as a player's manager and certainly boosted his standing with their World Series appearance. After the 2024 season, a little bit of criticism of him, but obviously did a great job, was a finalist for the 2025 Manager of the Year. And again, his job could have been in jeopardy after 24. He's not a polarizing guy. He's not this fun guy. The media doesn't really like him. They ranked him in the bottom tier of managers, the media did. But success is success. If he's taking him to the World Series, you got to feel good about that. The owner of the team is Rogers Communications, and the chairman and executive leader is Edward S. Rogers III. He has a long-term ownership stake in his team since 2024. He is willing to invest. We've seen it. We've seen him throw money at Shohei Ohtani and Kyle Tucker, and then they signed guys like Dylan Cease and made some international moves. So he is known as somebody who's willing to spend. There's no doubt about it. And it's interesting that Rogers Communication, with that, they own the broadcast infrastructure, which allows for more fan engagement. So it's kind of been a win-win from an ownership standpoint. From a general manager standpoint, Ross Atkins has been the general manager since 2015. He's viewed as a methodical, process-driven executive. He believes in internal evaluations, analytics, long-term roster balance. It's not just buy. It's also grow and buy and so forth. His reputation's mixed, but he's a serious guy. He's not emotional, not chaotic. Sometimes he's criticized for his offensive construction of teams, along with the bullpen depth, and sometimes seen as a little bit too like corporate-y, if you will. Mark Shapiro is the president and CEO of the organization. He's a strategy and culture guy, former general manager of his own. So overall, it's a really good structure. Manager to owner to GM, really nice. From a stadium standpoint, they play in Rogers Center in Toronto, formerly Sky Dome. Rogers Center, looking at how it plays, again, this is a retractable roof, so it's hard to really look at this, but in April, they are 6% below average run scoring, but in May it jumps 6%. So it goes from -6 to +6%. So that's a change of 12%. In June, it's -3%. July, it's +3%. August, it's -1%. And September, it's right around there as well. So again, how much is this open dome versus closed dome? I don't know, but overall, plays pretty balanced. Again, we've looked at this before as we went through team by team changes in the offseason, but let's take a look at what the Blue Jays lost since last year, and it's pretty significant. Right now, Max Scherzer is unsigned. He was only 5-5 with a 5.19 ERA, gave him 85 innings last year, a 129 WHIP. I think it's likely he re-signs with Toronto, maybe a little bit later of a signing, but he's an arm, future Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. They lost Bo Bichette, big loss. Bo Bichette 311 last year, 18 homers, 94 RBIs, is a hitting machine, 806 OPS. That is a big loss for them. They lost Chris Bassett to the Orioles. Bassett 11-9 with a 396 ERA. He gave them 170 innings last year, so that's a big loss. They lose Sir Anthony Dominguez, a relief pitcher to the White Sox. Dominguez a 316 ERA. 62 and 2/3 innings. He struck out 79 batters, so that's a big loss. They lost Joey Luperfido in a trade with the Astros. 333, 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, 879 OPS. Again, limited playing time. Isaiah Kinner-Falefa is with the Red Sox now. He batted 262 last year with 2 homers, 40 RBIs, and 15 stolen bases. So a little bit of a loss there. And then Ty France signed with the Padres. I think it was, maybe it wasn't a minor league deal. Maybe it was a major league deal. 257, 7 home runs, and 52 RBIs for Ty France. So a good bench guy. So that's a lot to lose. So what did they gain? Well, they went out and signed Dylan Cease to a 7-year deal. Cease did not have a great season last year with the Padres, 8-12 with a 4.55 ERA, 168 innings. He did strike out 215 batters. If he is on, he is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Huge strikeout guy. So you like that. Kazuma Okamoto, they signed him out of Japan, and he is a third baseman, and he was a very big home run hitter in Japan. Not these 50, 60 home run years necessarily, but he averaged 33 home runs a year from 2018 to 2024. Last year, 322, 15 home runs, 51 RBIs, a 992 OPS. He's going to get a chance to play, and we'll see how that converts to Major League Baseball. They signed Tyler Rogers, a relief pitcher, 4-6 with a 198 ERA last year, 81 games, really good numbers. They also signed out of Korea, Cody Ponce. So Cody Ponce started in Major League Baseball, went to Korea. Last year was 17-1 with a 1.89 ERA. Incredible numbers, right? 180 innings. He struck out 252 batters. I'm really anxious to see how Cody Ponce fares coming back to Major League Baseball. Couple other players. Jesus Sanchez is an outfielder who they got in a trade with the Astros in that Loperfido trade. Jesus Sanchez, 237, a little more power, 14 home runs, 48 RBIs, and 13 stolen bases, around a 700 OPS. Chase Lee, they received, he's a reliever. They got in a trade with the Tigers, 4-1 with a 4.10 ERA. And then well-traveled Eloy Jimenez re-signed with the Blue Jays on a minor league deal. So they lost a lot. Did they get back enough is the big question. So let's dig in a little bit deeper with their lineup and talk about it a little bit more. Now, I talked about them losing Bo Bichette and that being a big loss, and it is, don't get me wrong, but they did finish number one in the league in average, number three in OPS, and number one on on-base percentage. So they lost him, but maybe they could lose somebody like that to pick up a little more on the pitching side. Starting pitching, they ended up 20th in ERA and 17th in WHIP. You want to be better than that. And then relief pitching was kind of middle ground, 16th in ERA, 14th in WHIP. So keep that in mind. If this is going to be a World Series contending team, you want to make sure you have the right bats. You want to improve on your starting pitching, and you want to improve a little bit on your bullpen. So let's start by looking at their lineup. George Springer had a comeback year. I mean, this is a guy a couple years ago that went through this hitting slump, and I thought his career was dead. He's 36 years old now, but he's coming off a year where he batted 309 with 32 home runs and 18 stolen bases, got on base nearly 40% of the time, slugging percentage of 560. Wow. I mean, that was a great comeback year. The big question is, will he be able to do it again? Addison Barger was the sixth round draft pick of the Blue Jays back in 2018. He's playing right field, 502 plate appearances last year. He only batted 243. He did hit 21 home runs, but he's a serviceable player. It doesn't get on base as much as you'd like, 54 slugging percentage. Not sure where they're going to bat him in the lineup. Doesn't feel like a very good top of the order bat given his lower on base percentage. So we'll see where he fits in. Vladimir Guerrero. Obviously, it's Vladimir Guerrero. Now, his power stats haven't been as prodigious as I think we thought they would be, but he still batted 292 last year. Gets on base at a 381 clip, a 467 slugging percentage, 23 home runs. I'll take it. Believe me, I'll take it. He is a mainstay in that lineup. He's great. And one of these years, he is going to hit 30, 35, 40 home runs. This could be the year. Talk about a comeback player. How about Dalton Varsho? 29 years old, center fielder. He bounced around quite a bit. He was a former second round pick of Arizona back in 2017, but Varsho batted 238 last year, but hit 20 home runs and did well in the playoffs and was really important to that team last year. So, again, will he be able to do it again this coming year? We'll see. Catcher is Alejandro Kirk. Pudgy Alejandro Kirk, and I'm not making fun of him. I just see him in the batter's box, and I've got memories of him. He is a really good hitter, 282, 15 home runs, gets on base, 348 on base percentage. He's somebody that can bat in that, 5-6 range in the lineup. So I like what you have with Kirk. He can DH if he's not behind the plate. Jesus Sanchez, who came over in a trade with the Astros, is likely to man left field for this team. He's 28 years old. Last year batted 237. I already told you, 14 home runs. Adds some speed in the lineup, which they don't really have a lot of. Again, only gets on base at a 304 clip. But right now he's slated to play left field. We talked about Kazuma Okamoto coming over from Japan. Will he be able to make that transition? He will be given every chance to play third base every day. Andres Gimenez is likely to play shortstop for this team. Gimenez was only a 210 hitter last year, does have some speed with 12 stolen bases, but when you're only getting on base at a 285 clip, that doesn't bode well. Not a lot of power, 7 home runs. He is a left-handed bat in that lineup. Again, he'll play shortstop every day. And then Ernie Clement is likely to play second base. Clement, 277 last year, 9 home runs, 6 stolen bases. Other than Vlad and Springer and Kirk, a lot of these guys don't get on base that much, and that is a little bit of a concern if I'm the Blue Jays. From a bench standpoint, they've got backup catchers Tyler Heineman, 289 last year, 3 home runs in 174 plate appearances. Really good backup catcher. Davis Schneider is going to be a utility guy, infield outfielder, 234 with 11 home runs last year, only 227 plate appearances. Nathan Lukes could be an outfielder on this team, 255 with 12 home runs last year. And then Miles Straw could be a backup outfielder. He does provide some speed for you, but just a 262 hitter and 299 plate appearances. So, as I look at this offense compared to Oakland, I did it again. Compared to the Athletics, I like the Athletics offense a lot better than this team. And this is a team, again, that was first in average and first in on base percentage and third in OPS last year. So, not thrilled with the lineup. So, let's talk about pitching. I do think that they have some good things here on the pitching side, especially at the top of the rotation. You've got Kevin Gausman, who I would assume is going to be their opening day starter. Gausman pitched to a 3.59 ERA last year, 193 innings, only 155 hits, struck out 189 batters, almost a strikeout an inning. Solid pitcher. He's now 35 years old. And then you slot Dylan Cease behind him. That's pretty good. Cease is 30 years old now. Again, if Cease can return to what he was before last year, they're in good shape. Then you've got the youngster, the 22-year-old Trey Savage coming in. Didn't pitch much in the regular season, pitched in the postseason, pitched well, 3.21 ERA, one of the top prospects in baseball. Has every chance to be a top of the rotation starter. When I say top of the rotation, I mean a number one starter on this team in the future. They still have Jose Barrios. Barrios is, you feel like, at least I do, that Barrios is like 38 or 39. He's only 31. 166 innings last year. He pitched to a 4.17 ERA. Gave him, like I said, 166 innings, 160 hits, only struck out 138 batters, but not bad for a number 4 starter. And then again, Cody Ponce could slot in at the number 5 starter spot. Very excited to see what he does and how that transitions. From a bullpen standpoint, they've got their closer, Jeff Hoffman, saved 33 games last year, 68 innings, only 54 hits, and struck out 84 batters. Did have an elevated ERA of 4.37, but overall, he's your closer, and he will be your closer. 7th and 8th inning guys, Yimi Garcia will be one of them. He's a right-hander, 3.86 ERA last year, only 21 innings pitched, but 13 hits and 25 strikeouts. Tyler Rogers will be the other setup man. Again, 1.98 ERA, big free agent signing, 77 in the 3rd innings, just 66 hits. Doesn't strike out a lot of guys, 48 strikeouts, but those will be your 7th and 8th inning guys. In middle relief, you have it sets up to be a pretty nice middle relief core. Luis Farland pitched to a 2.97 ERA last year, 72 and 2/3 innings, gave up to 65 hits and struck out 75 batters. You've got Brendan Little, who pitched to a 3.03 ERA last year, 68 and 1/3 innings, 48 hits and 91 strikeouts. Really nice. You've got Braden Fisher, who pitched to a 2.70 ERA, 50 innings, just 32 hits and 62 strikeouts. Tommy Nance pitched to a 1.99 ERA, 31 and 2/3 innings, 25 hits, 32 strikeouts. And then Eric Lauer could be a starter, but likely to be a long reliever. 104 innings, 90 hits, and 102 strikeouts, pitched to a 3.18 ERA. So that bullpen has the potential to be really, really good. Honestly, if there's a weakness, it might be a closer, but Hoffman saved 33 games last year. So I really like what they have in their bullpen. I think their starting pitching really depends on Cease, Savage continuing to develop, and then does a guy like Cody Ponce deliver? A couple really bad things. Anthony Santander, they signed from the Orioles at the end of the 2024 season, and 25 was a total miss for him. And now 26, he had shoulder surgery as a torn labrum and just had surgery in February. He could be out for the year. That is a big bat that they're going to miss. And that was a free agent signing that, it's, just somebody that they missed on. They do have Shane Bieber, and I didn't mention him as a starting pitcher. He did have some forearm fatigue towards the end of last year. He's 30 years old, coming off Tommy John surgery, but if he is healthy this spring, he should slot into that rotation. And maybe they go with a six-man rotation, or maybe somebody gets bumped. I don't know. Maybe a Cody Ponce goes to the bullpen, which could be good. Could Ponce be a late inning reliever? Bowden Francis was a starting pitcher for them who had Tommy John surgery in February, earlier this month. Disappointing. He had pitched some meaningful innings for them. And then Jake Bloss is coming off of elbow surgery. He's a starting pitcher. Should get back this year, but you know, we'll see. Coming back from surgery, they may slow play it. It could be a guy that makes a difference sometime during the year. So let me now turn to the farm system and where do the Blue Jays stack up? So they had a guy like a Savage in there, and him graduating really is going to take away from that farm system. But overall, they rank 17th in baseball. Um, 25, their farm system ranked 23rd. But again, they really developed some of these pitchers in their farm system, like a Savage. He leads a group of pitchers that really will headline, and we'll talk about this a little bit, really will headline a group of players that will help them from a pitching standpoint soon. So we'll get more into the depth of it. But if you look back, starting in 2021, they had the fourth best farm system, and that makes sense. You look at some of the players that graduated from them, and you get it. Some of these players that are here now are, former graduates of that farm system. So they were fourth in 21, 19th and 22, 15th and 23, 24th and 24, 23rd and 25, and then, currently they rank 17th. So I told you it starts and ends with, well, it doesn't end. It starts with the Savage. Um, he enters 2026 as an American League Rookie of the Year favorite, and he could be a number one starter for this team in the future. He, from a grading standpoint, has a really good splitter, grades out as a 70 on top of a fastball that is a 60. And when you mix in a splitter with that fastball like that, that bodes really well. He made 5 starts during Toronto's run to the World Series. And game 5, he threw 7 innings of 1-run ball, striking out 12. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about this guy. He pitched at 3 seasons at East Carolina, and I look back at his 2024 season at East Carolina. He went 11-1 with a 2.03 ERA and struck out 145 batters in 93 and third innings. So, really high-end guy. And, right now he's 22 years old. So he is almost a lock for that rotation, I would think. But what else do the Blue Jays have in their minor league system? Well, their number 2 prospect is a number 62 overall in baseball, Arjun Nimala. He is a shortstop. He's 20 years old, 6'1", 170 pounds, and he was the youngest player drafted in the 2023 draft and debuted in the Florida Complex League before his 18th birthday. So he started off really slow at low A ball for Dunedin, and he actually went to the developmental list after his first 29 games. He returned and he improved on his swing and batted .265 the remainder of that season. And then for 2025, he actually started off really strong at High A Vancouver. He was batting .289 over his first 45 games. And then from June 1st onward, he batted just .184. So this is a guy who, again, is a shortstop. He's got, decent power. He can run. He's got a really good arm. He'll probably start the year in Double A, but he needs to get some consistency in his game, or he will not remain on that top 100 list. It's an important year for him. Yeah, he's 20 years old, so he's still young. JoJo Parker is a shortstop also for the Blue Jays in their minor league system. He's only 19 years old. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's a shortstop right now. He's 68th in Baseball America's top 100 list. He's the number 3 prospect for the Blue Jays. Given his size, it's likely he's going to end up a third baseman. Was a 4-year starter in high school and ended up being signed by the Blue Jays. They drafted him with the 8th overall pick in 2025. signed him for $6.2 million roughly, and didn't really play much in 25, so this will be his really first full year of minor league ball. So the projection is that he will be a third baseman, an above average third baseman, and could be an all-star someday. 55 hit grade, 55 power grade. Keep in mind, this is a younger guy. He's 19 years old, so those levels, those ratings could change, those scouting grades, but he is a shortstop to likely third baseman and somebody to be excited about. Then you start talking about some of these pitchers the Blue Jays have. Johnny King is a left-hand pitcher, 19 years old. He's 6'3", 210. They selected him in the third round, the Blue Jays did in 2024. He was only 17 years old. From Naples, Florida. He was one of the brightest performers of Toronto's farm system in 2025. Florida Complex League is where he started, struck out 41 batters in 24 innings, went to low A ball, Dunedin, and made 11 appearances, 10 starts. 37 and 2/3 innings, he struck out 65 batters or 64 batters. He did walk 30 batters, pitched to a 3.35 ERA. So he has all the makings of a mid-rotation guy. He needs to keep building on his momentum. Probably not a guy that will be in the Blue Jays plans for 2020, 26. Maybe not 2027, but from a scouting grade standpoint, really good fastball, really good curveball. Needs to work on his changeup a little bit, but something to like there. Gage Stanifer is another right-hand pitcher. He's closer to the big leagues, 22 years old, 6'3", 201 pounds. He's a right-hand pitcher. He was a 19th round prep pick out of Indiana in 2022. Spent time in the Florida Complex League, low A Dunedin, and then broke out in 2025. He actually pitched with Trey Savage in 2025, and right now he went from bullpen work to starting rotation work. I think he's going to project to be a mid-rotation starter, maybe number 4 starter. He's got a good sliders, grades out as a 60, and a good fastball at 55. He's going to have to mix in some other pitches if he wants to be a starting pitcher, but there's a chance that he could see action with the Blue Jays at some point, maybe in the bullpen in 2026. Keep an eye on Gage Stanifer. He's not a top 100 player, but somebody to keep an eye on. Another guy to keep an eye on is Ricky Tiedemann. He's a left-hand pitcher, 23 years old. The Blue Jays drafted him in the third round out of junior college in 2021. And in 2023, just threw 61 in the third innings because he had elbow pain that carried over to 2024. Finally, he had Tommy John surgery in July of 24 and missed all of 25. So the Blue Jays did add him to the 40-man roster following the 25 season, and they're going to slowly get him back into game action. He likely will see mostly relief work in 25 and then build up some of that energy so that he can be a starting pitcher. And he does project to be a mid-rotation starter. If he didn't have that Tommy John surgery, I think he would have projected much higher. He's got a really good fastball and slider, and his changeup he's worked on. There's a nice velocity difference between his fastball and changeup. His fastball sits 94 to 96 miles an hour. So mid-rotation upside there. So again, talked earlier about the Blue Jays and some of these pitchers they have that, project pretty well for them and will be pretty exciting. From an international signing standpoint, the Blue Jays this January signed nobody within the top 50. That doesn't mean they didn't get good players. They did sign 2 players. One, I'm going to call it Karakote. It might be Karasote. He is a catcher. They signed for $1.95 million out of Venezuela. And then Michael or Michelle maybe Mesa. They signed for $900,000. He's an outfielder out of the Dominican Republic. Again, didn't make a big splash in international signings this year, but that's okay. They have a pretty good minor league system as it is. So let's say the 26 Blue Jays end up closer to the 24 Blue Jays than they do the 25 Blue Jays, meaning they fall out of contention. what type of contracts could they move? So I'll give you five that I think could be movable. George Springer, we talked about his great year last year. He's got one more year left on his deal, 2026. It's a $24.2 million contract. Could he give way to a younger player? I think it's probably unlikely, but if they fall out of contention, they're going to look to build back, that minor league system. So he is a trade asset. I think they have. Kevin Gausman, absolutely a trade asset. This is the final year in his contract. He's older. He is movable. And if they fall out of contention and he pitches well, I absolutely could see him giving a very nice return to the Blue Jays. Shane Bieber has to stay healthy. If he can pitch and stay healthy, he is an asset that I think a team would want. Bieber, he just has to stay healthy. But when you look at it, he's 30 years old. He's still got a lot left in his career. So Shane Bieber's somebody to keep an eye on. Then from a bullpen standpoint, you've got Yimi Garcia. He's got 1 year on his contract. He's had success in the past. Could be a bullpen arm that's movable. And then Dalton Varsho has 1 year left, 2026 on his deal. If he does something like he did in 2025, I can see his contract being movable. Again, I say all of this in the context of who are the players that the Blue Jays could trade at the trade deadline if shit hits the fan, if they revert back to that, like I said, that 24 team that won 70 some games. These are just players they could move. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Why lose a guy and take Gausman, for example, who could sign anywhere? Why lose a guy like that and not get anything when you could trade him if you fall out of contention and build up your minor league system? So it's a very well-run franchise. I hate to say it, but that is the Toronto Blue Jays. Where do I expect them to be? Definitely in one of those first two tiers. Could be a third tier team, but I would kind of be surprised by that. Again, I'm going through these teams. I'm changing my mind all the time, but right now I would think they would fall somewhere within those first two tiers. So that is your 2026 Toronto Blue Jays. All right, two really fun teams, the Athletics, the Blue Jays. One team absolutely on the rise, another team at the top right now, American League pennant in 2025. Really exciting to talk about both of those teams. Remember, once I get through all 30 teams, I will have a preseason special where I unveil my final pyramid, and that'll be a lot of fun. For now, though, that is it for today. Again, make sure you click subscribe, whether that's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. That way it just pops right up when you're driving in your car, or you're going to listen. New episodes will pop right up. And then if you like these podcasts, make sure you click the like button. And I would appreciate that. From a social media standpoint, again, I'm at TellusEllisHQ on X and on Instagram. If you have questions, want to join the show, want to challenge me, whatever it is, just email me, jamie@tellusellis.com. I really appreciate all the follows, all the likes, and I will look forward to unveiling my next two teams. Take care.